My name is Hana. I was 5 years old and I loved my dad more than anything. He usually picked me up from school. We would walk home together, holding hands. He always bought me a sweet rice cake from the little shop on the corner. But today was different. The school bell rang and all the other children ran out. Their mums and dads were waiting. They all went home laughing and talking. I stood by the big school gates, clutching my little red bag. I waited and waited. The sun started to go down, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was pretty, but it made my tummy feel wobbly. Dad wasn't here. He had forgotten me. I was a small girl, but I was also quite round. My cheeks were chubby, and my school uniform always felt a bit tight around my middle. Sometimes the other children would point. They didn't mean to be unkind, I think, but it made me feel like a big wobbly jelly. Standing there all alone, I felt even bigger and more noticeable. The street was quiet now. The happy sounds of children playing had faded away. All I could hear was the wind whispering through the leaves of the cherry blossom trees. A single tear rolled down my chubby cheek. I quickly wiped it away. I had to be a brave girl. Dad would be here soon, I told myself. He was just a little bit late. The sky grew darker. The streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long, spooky shadows on the pavement. My heart started to beat very fast, like a little drum. Thump, thump, thump. Every little noise made me jump. A cat meowed, and I nearly screamed. A bicycle rattled past, and I hid behind the gate post. I felt so small and scared. Where was he? Did he not love me anymore? I thought about my warm bed and my favorite teddy bear, Kuma. I just wanted to be home, safe and sound. But home felt very, very far away now. The world felt big and frightening, and I was just a tiny, forgotten girl in the middle of it all. I decided I couldn't wait any longer. Maybe Dad was at home worried about me. Maybe I should try to walk home by myself. I took a deep breath and stepped away from the safety of the school gates. The street looked different at night. The familiar shops were dark and closed. The friendly faces were all gone. Suddenly I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, slow footsteps. I started to walk faster, my little legs trying to run. The footsteps got faster too. I didn't dare look back. I was sure someone was following me. My wobbly tummy felt like it was full of frightened butterflies, all trying to get out at once. My little heart was pounding against my ribs. I was too scared to scream. I just kept walking, faster and faster, but the footsteps stayed right behind me. They were getting closer. I could almost feel someone breathing on my neck. I saw the dark shape of my school building and thought it would be safe inside. The big doors were heavy, but one of them was unlocked. I pushed it open with all my might and slipped inside, letting it swing shut behind me with a loud bang. It was pitch black inside the empty hallway. The only light came from the moon, shining through the high windows and making strange patterns on the floor. It was so quiet I could hear my own ragged breathing. I tiptoed down the corridor, past my classroom. The little desks and chairs looked like sleeping animals in the gloom. I felt a tiny bit safer, but I was still shivering. I wasn't shivering from the cold. I was shivering from fear. I hid in a little alcove under the stairs, hugging my red school bag tightly. I closed my eyes and wished with all my heart that my dad would burst through the doors and find me. I tried to think of happy things, like the taste of sweet rice cakes and the warmth of my dad's hand. But the image of the dark street and the sound of the footsteps kept pushing the happy thoughts away. Suddenly, a light flickered on at the end of the hall. I peeked out from my hiding place. A woman was standing there. She was very, very thin, like a stick. She had a kind face and a warm smile. "Hello there, little one," she said, her voice soft and gentle. "Are you lost? You shouldn't be here all by yourself. It's not safe." I was so relieved to see a grown-up. She didn't look scary at all. I stepped out from under the stairs, my tears starting to fall again. "My dad," I whispered. "He forgot me." I felt a bit silly for being so scared now. This nice lady would help me. The thin woman knelt down so her eyes were level with mine. "Oh, you poor thing," she cooed, stroking my hair. "Don't you worry. I know where we can find someone to help you. A very important man who can find anyone. He will help you get home to your daddy in no time. Come with me. We'll get this sorted out." She held out her hand. It was a bony hand, but it felt safe. I took it without a second thought. Her smile seemed so genuine, so caring. I trusted her completely. I thought my long, scary wait was finally over. I was wrong. It was only just beginning. The thin woman led me out of the school and down a maze of dark, narrow streets I had never seen before. Her hand was wrapped tightly around mine. We walked for a long time, far away from my neighborhood. My little legs started to ache, but she just kept pulling me along, telling me we were almost there. We stopped in front of a big, dark building with no windows. It looked scary. "Is the helpful man in there?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Yes, dear," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes this time. "He's waiting for us." She knocked on the heavy wooden door in a special way. Tap, tap, tappity tap. The door creaked open, and we went inside. The room was filled with thick smoke that made me cough. A huge man was sitting in a large chair, like a king on a throne. He had a scary face with a long scar that snaked down his cheek. He was not a helpful man. He was the most frightening man I had ever seen. He looked at me with cold, hard eyes. He was the most feared criminal in all of Japan, a name whispered in fear, but I was just a little girl who didn't understand. I tried to pull my hand away from the thin woman, but she held on tight. "Here she is," the woman said to the scary man, "just as you wanted, a healthy one." The scary man grunted. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a thick envelope full of money. He threw it on the table. The thin woman snatched it up eagerly, her eyes gleaming. She didn't even look at me, she just counted the money, a greedy smile on her face. She had lied to me. She wasn't a nice lady. She had sold me. A wave of terror washed over me, so strong it made me feel sick. I was trapped. I looked from the scary man to the thin woman, who was now backing away towards the door. She gave me one last cold glance before she slipped out and disappeared, leaving me alone with the monster. The big man stood up. He was a giant. He walked over to me and picked me up as if I was a doll. I was too terrified to even cry. He carried me through a door and down a long flight of stairs into a small, dark room in the basement. There was only a small bed and a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. He put me down on the bed and then left, locking the door with a loud final click. I was a prisoner. My dad wasn't coming. The nice lady was a bad lady. I was lost. I curled up into a little ball on the bed and finally let out all the screams I had been holding inside. But no one could hear me. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and the months into years. I grew up in that small, dark room. The scary man, whose name I learned was Kenji, brought me food and water. He never spoke to me. I forgot what the sun felt like on my skin. I forgot the smell of sweet rice cakes. I forgot the sound of my father's laugh. I was no longer a little round girl. I was a young woman, thin and pale, who lived in the shadows. For 20 long years, the world outside went on without me. My parents never stopped looking. The police had a file with my name on it, a cold case about a little girl who vanished from Hiroshima one afternoon. But hope is a funny thing. It can hide in the darkest of corners, waiting for a tiny crack of light. One day, the police, who were investigating Kenji for other terrible crimes, finally raided his building. They broke down doors and shouted. I heard loud noises and crashing from upstairs. My heart pounded in my chest, a mixture of terror and something else I hadn't felt in a long time, a tiny spark of hope. The lock on my door rattled. After a few loud bangs, the door flew open. A police officer stood there, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. He stared at me, his face a mixture of shock and pity. "We found her," he whispered into his radio. "We found Hana." Being outside in the world again was overwhelming. The sunlight was too bright, the sounds were too loud, and the colors were too vibrant. Everything was strange and new. The police found my parents. They were old now, their faces lined with worry and 20 years of grief. When my mother saw me, she let out a cry that held all the pain of the lost years. They wrapped their arms around me, and for the first time since I was 5 years old, I felt safe. The journey to healing would be long and difficult. I had to learn how to live again, how to trust, and how to feel the sun on my face without flinching. But I was a survivor. I had lived through the darkness. The little girl who was lost was now found. My story is a sad one, but it is also a story of strength. It shows that even when things seem hopeless, even after 20 years in the dark, a person can be found. It shows that the human spirit can endure unimaginable hardship and still find its way back to the light. The world can be a scary place, but it can also be a place of reunion, of healing, and of hope. I was home, and that was all that mattered.